We begin in Niger, where a group of military officers has announced a coup on national television.
This day, July 23rd, 2023, we, the Defense and Security Forces, meeting within the National Council for the safeguard of the homeland.
Today we find ourselves amidst a clash of epic proportions in the heart of Niger. Picture a battleground where the forces of a president and his people lock horns, with the ever-watchful gaze of the government looming overhead. Who will emerge victorious in this mind-bending struggle? Brace yourselves, for we shall unravel the mysteries that led to this momentous conflict. While coups and political upheavals may not be strangers to this land, the current coup has taken on a magnitude that threatens to eclipse them all. Now you may wonder, what is the cause of this turmoil? What has pushed the people of Niger to rise against their leader? Is this a somber omen, signaling the demise of democracy? And where does the mighty hand of the higher powers come into play? It's no secret that the general economy of the West African region has taken a nosedive, but rumor has it that Niger might just be on the more rugged side of that plane. Undoubtedly, the escalation of insecurity and the decline in economic prospects played a significant role in exacerbating fragility within the nation. Even with the bolstering of foreign forces, particularly those from the US and France, along with the establishment of military bases in Niger, the leadership's efforts to quell insurgent attacks have proven insufficient. Within the country, a multitude of insurgent groups, including affiliates of Al-Qaeda and Islamic States, as well as Boko Haram, continue to operate unchecked. But what do the coup plotters have to say to themselves? Surprisingly, they claim that their intervention was necessary due to the country's declining economic situation and deteriorating security. Is this the truth? The military also did a shocking thing in which they broadcast the finance minister of Niger on national television and told him to say about every corruption their government has done in 48 hours. That was very shocking to see. While Niger remains one of the poorest countries in West Africa, it has enjoyed some economic growth during President Bazoum's tenure. Unfortunately, this growth hasn't been enough to turn the tide in Niger's favor. The people of Niger were frustrated with their civilian government, giving many resources like uranium, coal, gold, iron ore, petroleum, etc. to Western nations, especially France. People in France living good life, whereas the poverty and underdevelopment in Niger haven't seen much improvement yet. Also, France was the colonizer of Niger. They have exploited the resources of Niger, which is also the reason for public anger towards France. That's why people in Niger wanted a major change in the country. Adding fuel to the fire, President Bazoum has lost the trust and respect of his people, accused of engaging in corrupt dealings with foreign governments. But here's the real shocker. This military coup isn't even a rarity in Niger. It's not the first, second, or even the 10th. Can you believe that? As if that's not appalling enough, President Bazoum's predecessor stepped down from power to avoid being dadnapped. Hold on for a second. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? President Bazoum became Niger's first democratically elected president in decades a little over 2 years ago. It seems he may not have relinquished his power as quickly as the military would have liked, and to make matters worse, his friendly relationship with France, the very tormentors of Niger before its independence, has only fueled the resentment of militant groups within the country. Surprisingly, this isn't the first time the military has revolted against President Bazoum. Shortly after his election, they attempted a coup that ultimately failed. Unbelievable, isn't it? While their previous attempts to overthrow him may have fizzled out, President Bazoum might not be so fortunate this time, as the military enjoys the support of the citizens. After all, a stable economy and a half-full stomach trump a plummeting one any day. The start of a war in Niger? What could that possibly mean for the rest of us? Will Niger's coup be another spark that ignites the fire of World War III? Like a flock of hungry vultures, different bodies and associations have already begun to swoop in. But at the top of this food chain are the United States and, yup, you guessed it right, France troops. Next up on the Big Leagues Club is ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. While this might seem like a minuscule war for the time being, Things are getting blown out of proportion way faster than we could imagine. Now, why a union such as ECOWAS would be concerned about such a teensy little neighborhood fight? Well, here's where things get even crazier. Did you know that 4 other West African countries surrounding Niger have just recently undergone successful military coups? A successful coup in Niger could only mean one thing, which is the gradual demise of the democratic rule in West Africa. But one question remains unanswered. Could we blame the recent military uprisings on the corrupt dealings of the military? Or did they simply stem from the corrupt dealings of the West African government? Looking at the current situation, it's possible that improvements could be seen in Niger if there was a reduction in external involvement, particularly from France, in the country's affairs. However, things might be too late at this point, with Niger's militants refusing to release and reinstate President Bazoum, despite receiving the joint threat of the United Army, which includes the United States troops, France troops, and guess who else is joining the party? It's none other than the Nigerian army, whose president has declared his willingness to open fire on Niger's army should they refuse to reinstate their president. Now, one important thing that you should know is that Nigeria happens to have the strongest militia force in the West African region, and should they choose to open fire, it would end up bloody for the Niger troops. And even worse, the Nigerian president recently became the chairman of ECOWAS, meaning that he's got the entire fleet of the West African army at their disposal. But the Niger troops are unbothered since they've got the full support of rogue West African nations who have now adopted militia rule. And we're talking of countries like Burkina Faso, and don't forget the likes of Mali and Guinea. Well, it seems like all hope for a more stable democracy in Niger has been lost, because right now, Niger has gotten herself into a deep hole. This will not just affect Niger, but also Europe, especially France, because France and the EU have big problems now. Because out of every 3 houses in France, the electricity that they were getting was because of the resources coming from Niger. But now Europe not getting many natural resources and oil neither from Russia and now nor from the Sahel region, especially from Niger. This will push many European economies, including France, into recession, and people there will face high inflation problems. Hold on tight, everyone, because Niger is about to become the stage for a war like no other. The entire West African Union is gearing up for battle, and they're not alone. International powers, including the United States, with 1 to 100 troops already deployed in Niger, are ready to join the fight and prevent the outbreak of a new world war. The United States militants are armed with mind-boggling, tech-savvy weaponry that seems straight out of a sci-fi movie. These weapons are so advanced that they would soon become an unstoppable force on the battlefield. At the battle's forefront is France, lurking like a stealthy tiger, armed to the teeth with state-of-the-art weaponry. With 1,500 troops stationed in Niger, they wait patiently for the perfect moment to strike. Nigeria is next in line, armed with weapons worth billions of dollars. While their previous encounters with Boko Haram proved challenging, their sheer numbers and rugged spirit compensate for any military shortcomings. Let's not forget about Guinea, always standing firmly by Niger's side, ready to support their troops. Though they may lack the flashy weapons of Nigeria, their years of military experience more than make up for it. Also, one of the major world power, Russia, is with Niger. In Niger, every people burn flags of the US and France and asking them to completely leave their country and waving the flag of Russia and saying, "Long live Russia." In the Sahel region, Russia is winning, and Western nations are losing the Sahel region, which is a big geopolitical victory for Russia. If France or any Western nation tries any military action, Russia won't let it be done easily, because Russia also cannot afford to let go Niger, which is very important in Western Africa or Sahel region. As Ukraine and Russia engage in a fierce showdown and the rest of the world scrambles for position, is this the dawning of a new era or the beginning of our undoing? Throughout history, humanity has shown a strange ability to survive and rise from the ashes. Whatever happens, you can count on us to be your ever-resourceful guide to the world of geopolitics. Stay tuned as the world watches and holds its breath.